So thank you again for joining us. We're going to give you an introduction to the Microsoft Common Data Model. Just out of curiosity, how many people have heard of the Common Data Model? Okay, well, great. Most of you, and you're all here, you found us in the session, that's great. So my name's Tessa Kloster.
My name is Robert Bruckner.
And we are going to spend the next 45 or so minutes giving you an introduction to the variety of things that we're doing and tying it back to some of the announcements you might have heard this week as well. So what are we going to cover today? Again, it's only 45 minutes, so we have quite a bit of content. We do also have a booth in the Microsoft Expo area called the Data Integration booth. So if you have more questions and we aren't able to answer all of them, please come on down and visit us over there. But what we're going to cover today, we're going to give you a quick overview of the Common Data Model. We're going to talk about CDM and the announcements that were made on Monday around the Open Data Initiative. We're going to give a few great demos of the model in action, and then talk about the ecosystem and industry solutions and what we're doing to kind of really expand the reach of this effort. And we'll save some time for Q&A, but then, of course, you can always come and find us at the booth. So starting off, before we even get into the specifics of Common Data Model as we talk about it, why is a shared data model significant at all? So traditionally or previously, you would have a very isolated experience when you have applications that you want to build and data that resides somewhere else. And so more traditionally, you would have an application that has to connect to a particular data source. And if you want to expand that app to have more content from another location, okay, now that app also has to connect to the next data source. And this continues on and on for every app and every data source that you want to add into this ecosystem. And it really replicates work, right? So every application has to natively understand each data source, the content that's there, how it's structured, the metadata related to it, and on and on and on. And it really keeps all of these data and applications really in their individual silos without being able to share that work and that knowledge as well. So with a shared data model, all the crisscrossing lines disappears, and you have an application layer on top and data sources on the bottom, and they can all natively connect and translate into this shared model that really reduces the replication of that work. So instead of having n times n, you end up with n plus n in a much more unified way, having that single shared layer in between. It also means that your app developers, folks sitting on top, and the folks bringing in the data source or the back-end integrators can develop separately. So each application developer doesn't have to go out and work either with an integrator or themselves understand each data source. They can rely on the fact that the integrators have brought in the data into the shared model in the right way and can really focus on bringing value through their application. In a similar way, the data integrators don't have to worry or understand what each application is trying to do. They can focus on bringing in the data. So this is where the Common Data Model comes in. And when we talk about today's Common Data Model, we really talk about three things. So first, it's a collection of standard entities that are modular but also extensible. And they're focused really on business concepts such as account and lead and opportunity, but also observational concepts, so things that might be collected as a user's interacting with a web page, for example. And this collection of schemas really brings things together in a well-known and a defined format that allows the same data to have the same meaning across all of these applications and deployments. So having the same semantic or meaning despite where the data came from and where it's ultimately being used in the applications. And because of that, the structural and semantic consistency allows for customers and partners and system integrators to all build turnkey applications that, again, can just leverage the well-known schema instead of having to understand each individual data source. And the data will be shared across all of these entities, providing that unified model. And as I mentioned as well, it's also extensible. So although it comes with out-of-box schemas, it can be extended both on a particular schema, so you can add items to account, for example, or you can bring in new entities to cover business-specific ideas. So the common data model, and a slightly different version, and again, this is on the right-hand side here is a little bit of the poster, so if you don't have a handout, make sure you come up after it. But it did start from Dynamics 365, and maybe some of these entities you might see are familiar. So you see sales, service, marketing, that type of thing. We've open sourced the schemas in GitHub repository right now, and there's over 250 different entities today, but this is expanding with the help of a variety of partners and industry subject matter experts. It's more than just a schema. It also has a rich metadata system underneath it, including relationships, hierarchies, traits, and more. And so this is really where some of the power starts to come in, especially if you don't match the exact schema of account, for example. You can still have concepts that leverage the metadata system. And we have a variety of systems and platforms that actually implement the common data model as it is today.
So with that, Tessa mentioned there's multiple systems that implement this today, and we have certainly rolled this out across many different areas with customers. And also what we've heard from customers is that we could create even more value by ultimately not just enabling different Microsoft systems to bring data into this ecosystem, but ultimately also bring other very valuable business data into this ecosystem. And so with that, for those of you who have been in the keynote on Monday, Satya was on stage with Shantanu from Adobe and with Bill from SAP and announced the Open Data Initiative. And the Open Data Initiative is really about how to break down those siloed data silos and ultimately enable business insights and drive business outcomes by just bringing that data together, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, enabling direct access to a lot of that data in a standardized form, and harmonizing that data across the many different systems such that you can really do artificial intelligence, machine learning at massive volume of data with direct access to it. And so the Open Data Initiative really has 3 core principles. Number 1, the customer is in control of their data. They own the data. So an enterprise that may have a data lake, the data will flow into the data lake. It will be described with metadata that basically makes it understandable across a variety of different systems. This enables you to build ultimately business outcomes in a much easier way because you don't have to spend so much time on, okay, how do I connect to this system? How do I transform data? How do I cleanse data and all these things? Ultimately, how do I harmonize across a lot of these different silos? Rather, having the data all flow into a single shared location that really allows you to more easily reason over that data and also put ultimately controls around that data, and really putting the trust around the data back into your control. And finally, it is also open and extensible. And so this is also something where, yes, we are partnering and teaming up across Microsoft, SAP, and Adobe. And we all really are excited about what we want to accomplish here. But we ultimately understand that, yes, there's things that you have specifically in your domain that you want to describe is in the data. You have maybe backend systems that you want to also bring into this. So ultimately, you can also bring your custom data and all of this into the same data lake. And so it's really about enabling the harmonization of what today often is internal and external data silos. When you want to build the best customer experience as possible, you want to serve your customers, you want to build better products, products that where you get a stream of telemetry data back. So it's not just that as soon as you sell a particular product, you have no longer insights into what's happening, how your customers are using it. No, there may be telemetry streams, there may be other interactions your customers are doing that you really want to get these insights from. Then you want to empower your employees when they interact, for example, with customers, to really enable them to make the best possible decisions, having the best insights without having to do some heavy lifting of data transformations or not even knowing how to access some of the data. And finally, right, you also want to be able to optimize your operations, really across all of these things, right? And so this is what the Open Data Initiative is about, right? Enabling, certainly to, right, the founding partners are Adobe, Microsoft, and SAP. We are bringing, right, all that business data, right, from various different areas together to really enable that in what we call one single data model. And so this is ultimately then all, right, enabled across those particular areas, and there's also multiple platforms, right, and services and products that leverage all of this. And so how does this tie back to what Tessa, right, covered around the common data model? And so there's really one data model here that we are, right, have across Microsoft data, business data, right, and observational data, Adobe's data, SAP's data. And the common data model, right, as it is today, is evolving as part of this Open Data Initiative to really cover, right, those areas. And so what that one data model really gives you is, right, a unified schema, unified semantics of how this data is described. And then by having the semantics of the data associated with just the raw data, we can also then build experiences that, right, take advantage of that and make things so much simpler. And we will show a few examples later on. And this is all building on existing efforts. Now, what is listed here is specifically, right, things we have already done over the years here at Microsoft, where CDM is already implemented as part of the Common Data Service, as part of Dynamics 365, Power Apps, Power BI, and there's also upcoming Azure Data Services. And so, right, really, what are the core concepts of how we break down some of these silos, right, in the data lake? One part of this is, right, standard entities. And Tessa showed, right, we have a set of standard entities in the common data model, right? Similarly, we are basically looking at harmonizing these things across Adobe's, right, custom information, Microsoft, SAP, right, all these different areas that we ultimately have a set of standard entities that, of course, can be customized, extended. We have an underlying metadata system that, right, really is about describing semantic information. And this could be simple examples, right, that are listed about, okay, this particular field, right, may be geographic information, that it's really a city and not just simply a string. And then products basically can, right, automatically derive behaviors from knowing this particular field is not just simply a string, but it's actually a city information. Or it could be, right, this particular field is a customer's, right, or a person's phone number or a person's name. Right? That kind of information can also help you then with, okay, this being tagged as personally identifiable information, PII, that can then drive certain, right, intelligent experiences from applications, right, and tracking lineage of where data goes and who is allowed to see, right, certain aspects of that data. And then there's the aspect of self-describing data folders in the data lake. And so the Microsoft internal code name that we have been building towards this already, and I will show examples in a moment, is CDM folders because it evolved out of the common data model. So we use the shorthand CDM folders in this presentation for really describing this notion of when you land data in the data lake, it's not just the raw data. There's actually a metadata description that is standardized, that sits next to the data, and that metadata description is natively understood by multiple different services, and that really enables interoperability. So if you land data, let's say, from Dynamics 365, there's other services that can understand the metadata that comes with that data and, right, really simplify a lot of those experiences where you don't have to rediscover, well, what is the meaning of this field? What is the meaning of that? And so what this really leads to is we want to enable, right, low-friction collaboration among data and AI professionals. And so there's really the spectrum at the top, right, where you have business analysts. They're really good, right, with dealing with data, right, getting insights from it. But you also sometimes, right, you want to make sure that your data scientists, your data engineers, right, your professional developers can also participate in this. And so if you take an example here, right, Dynamics 365, the data is ultimately underneath in the common data service for apps. And that data lands in the data lake, right, described in the CDM folder concept. Think of it, it's like a regular folder in a data lake, except it has a standardized description of metadata, as well as how the data files themselves are described. And so Dynamics 365 lands the data in the data lake, And now you can take the self-service, no-code, low-code experience like Power BI, where you take the Power BI data flow capability and simply connect to that data. And you can build dashboards, reports from it. You can customize it. End users can customize this. But that only covers so far the spectrum, the part of the spectrum which is about, OK, self-service. Now, for certain things, you may want to bring in, ultimately, your specialists around, I don't know, machine learning, You want to do AI. You want to do maybe some more sophisticated data prep. You want to connect to a variety of custom systems. Maybe you want to run some more sophisticated machine learning models. And you really want to make sure this can run over the same data. And so it can consume not just the data that came out of the systems on the left-hand side, but also when those systems, they often produce new insights. So I run a machine learning model. I did some assessment of all the customer data. I'm basically predicting, I'm calculating maybe a certain customer lifetime value, and I'm also predicting a certain churn risk of that customer. So I want that additional information to land back in the data lake and also be described with the same metadata that then all these other systems immediately understand. And so that way, it's not like, OK, another disconnected data silo, but rather it is all described with the standardized metadata system. And so there's also we're also working in the Azure IoT area that basically IoT data lands in that same format. For Office, similarly, we want to enable communication data, emails, and other information that an enterprise may exchange with their customers. That is also very valuable information that we also want to enable for that kind of analytics and insights. And then, of course, this is also, we enable the partner ecosystem. And specifically, we are partnering very closely with Adobe and SAP in this to ultimately land that same data, and make it accessible to all these different platforms and experiences. And of course, we have ISV partners that are also building towards this already. And so we have, yesterday there was a session for Power BI, and at the very end there was a brief mention of Informatica that is already building, has a private preview of this kind of experience of how they can land data in that format that is then recognizable, for example, by Power BI. And so let's dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and just before we jump too far into the Azure Data Services, taking a look at the this slide as we have it, as Robert said, it really shows, from a business analyst all the way up to our data scientists and data engineers. But you've seen kind of the stack diagram from us now 2 or 3 times in the slide, because it's really trying to show that there's a unification, there's that the one data model, and it's self-reporting and this, with consistent semantics that really allow all these wide varieties of consumers, but also producers of data to play in the same ecosystem. So we're really excited to be able to have a slide that shows all of this wide variety, and we know that there's going to be even more coming. So as Robert said, driving in specifically to one of the example around Azure Data Services, again, there's a lot of power in Azure. I think we all know that by now. And the fact that it can also understand and benefit from data in this shape with this rich semantic meaning as well makes it even more powerful. So for example, we're working closely with a few teams in Azure to put together a little sample scenario, and this is something you'll see more of as well coming in the next few months. But in this particular case, I'm in Azure Data Factory, and you can see I've built a flow here where I've started with data that's in CDM shape. So it's ingesting from a CDM folder. And then because it already has that rich metadata and semantic meaning on top of it, I get to take advantage of it to really power some additional capabilities to cleanse and enrich and ultimately write out even more updated and empowered data that then I can actually use to copy and create a data warehouse directly from that. So I haven't had to recreate this metadata. I've taken advantage of what's already there, but I can use it to kind of fuel additional scenarios, leveraging some really powerful Azure capabilities as well. So unfortunately, we didn't have time for a live demo of this one, but you'll see more and more of this coming shortly. So kind of drilling in more to what would have been the left-hand side of the diagram that Robert was showing, back more towards the business analyst side. We have both a common data service for apps, which powers Dynamics 365, as well as our app platform, Power Apps, and Power BI and the Azure Data Lake data flow capabilities that they're building out. And really, there's a special integration between these two scenarios that really focus on that business user as well.
And so with that, let's switch over to a demo. And so I really want to, we've talked a lot about data and metadata. I want to start with an application example. And so this is a dashboard that gives you insights into your sales pipeline, right? So you have sales data. You may be using Dynamics 365 to track, right, your customer engagements. You may be using maybe Salesforce, right, to track those customer engagements, or you use another system. What we have enabled, right, with the common data model today is that there is the standardized definition of what is a customer, what is an opportunity, what is a lead, right, a prospective customer, what is actual sales that you have recorded. And what we can do here is, right, that this particular dashboard and the data underneath is ultimately populated from multiple different systems. So we have decoupled the BI professional who builds on, okay, focusing on the visualization, on the analytics, of building these kinds of insights, right, of looking at the sales performance, right, looking at then the drill down reports of giving you insights into particular aspects, right, of the sales pipeline, and then, right, separately enabling the data integrators that, right, own some of these backend systems to feed the data into this particular BI model. And so there's really a decoupling here where we can enable this over the same insights, right, the same one BI application running over Dynamics 365 data and Salesforce data. And so as a business user, the only question that a business user will be asked when they install this particular Power BI application is basically, where does your data live? Does it live in Dynamics? Does it live in Salesforce? Right? Or does it live potentially in another system? And they only provide their login credentials. And then and I will switch over to the data integrator persona in a moment, right? That persona can basically build those data integration experiences to map to these standard entities that then all power these particular insights from that dashboard, from that report. And so this was the consumption side, right? If I go into this experience here in Power BI, there's this new capability called Power BI Data Flows. If you have been to the Power BI sessions here at Ignite conference, you probably saw already some demos on this. I'll just quickly show you a specific example. And so, right, this is a preview capability. I go to create a new data flow. And as part of the new data flow, I want to connect to, right, a system that holds my customer records. And I want to basically bring it into the shape that this dashboard, right, will understand. And so the experience that you see here, you may be familiar with, right, Power Query in Power BI Desktop or Power Query in Excel. Right, this is a cloud version, a browser-based version of Power Query that gives you connectivity to various sources, but it also has this concept of templates. And so if I pick the Salesforce template, I'm just quickly signing in. And so all it asks me here is to ultimately, right, sign in with my credentials. And then I say next. And so what it does is this template is already pre-packaged with a number of queries and data transforms. And you see this on the left-hand side, right? So what we have here is, right, we have a number of predefined queries for account, user, opportunity, lead, right, product information, opportunities, and all of that. And each of those queries really, right, defines a set of transform steps of how I go from the Salesforce shape of data, right? Salesforce has a certain way of representing account information, representing opportunity information, and shape it and map it ultimately to the common data model shape, right? This kind of shared data model, which then the outcome, right, in this case is the data is represented in this particular way, right? And so I can also, if I want to, right, I can go in and can take a look at, okay, account information, right, is mapped to particular fields, right, and for other entities, it's also mapped to particular fields of those standard entities. But as a user here, right, I got this template, I can just go, right, and say, I'm done with it. And so that just takes a few seconds, right, and that basically defines a data integration that connects to Salesforce, transforms the data to those particular entities that this particular Power BI dashboard makes use of. If I connect it to Dynamics 365, right, the data is already shaped in that form, so there's no transforms needed. But for Salesforce, right, this is a packaged solution, right? I didn't write a single line of code. I just did a few mouse clicks, and I basically have the same data now shaped exactly the way it will come out of Dynamics. And all these Power BI applications that rely on, right, particular shapes of data will immediately work. Now, the same thing, right, could be done then for business applications. But before I go there, right, this is really the templating mechanism is something that we will also enable, right, that as partners or customers, you can go in, right, you can already go in right now, you can customize it, because you may have additional entities, you may have additional custom attributes defined, for example, in Salesforce that you also want to bring in, right? So you can use this no-code or low-code experience to graphically perform the transforms, bring that additional data. But we'll also want to enable this, right, that you can ultimately save those things back, right, share it within other users within your organization, or, right, ultimately also enable a marketplace where ISVs can, right, provide their own templates beyond the ones that we build ultimately.
And as Robert said, it is the whole power of Power Query Online that we have there. In this particular case, for the template that you saw, we did some basic kind of mapping, adding columns, removing columns, that type of thing. But really, you have the full power behind all of the different transformations that you can do. You'll be able to do merges, joins, that type of thing. And so it doesn't have to even be isolated to a single data source. You can bring in data from a variety and even use it in that space to really merge it and get it in the right shape.
All right, so let's switch over. So this is Power Apps. This is the Power Apps portal where I can go in, right, and I can, as a citizen developer, I could quickly build, right, with a graphical UI, I can build web-based and mobile-based applications and bind them to data. I can visually design those applications. And when I bind to data, right, I could bind directly to data, or I could, right, bring data or use data out of the common data service. And so what we have here in the Power Apps portal, we also have this data integration experience. And the data integration experience ultimately, right, allows you to create a new data integration project, or, right, you can just go in here and say, for particular entities, and, right, my common data service instance here has already pre-populated, right, a number of these standard entities as well as some custom entities, right? I can always go here and say, okay, get data. And when I say get data, I get the same kind of experience, right, that allows me to just graphically connect to different kinds of data sources, perform transforms, right, and bring that data into my common data service, and then have my applications, right, run over this. And so we have shown you here, right, two examples of how basically the common data model underneath, right, is really enabling, empowering a lot of these experiences of how we enable you to connect to different variety of systems, map to, right, standard entities, and ultimately enable, right, in one case, Power BI applications, right, very easily, and connect them to different types of underlying source data, or in this particular world, right, of Power Apps applications that you bring data into the common data service, and ultimately you can then build, right, Power Apps applications to read, right, update, insert, delete, right, of all that data.
And if you're already using Power Apps in the Common Data Service today or Dynamics 365 today, chances are you're already using data in the shape of the Common Data Model. And so it's one of those things, as we said, that's kind of built in natively to some of the products that we already provide. And as we extend this to some of those other boxes that we were showing before, the other Azure capabilities, and so on, that's really where you'll see CDM and the rich metadata that it brings light up more and more. Okay, so we just went through that demo of showing both the data flows as well as Power Apps data integration. There's so much more we could show you even just in those two products as well. And so if you're interested in learning more, do make sure you come by our booths after this. Just as a recap of what you saw here with CDM and specifically around the data integration experiences. So those experiences are really what we offer out of box to help our data integrators or our backend providers to bring data into the CDM shape from a variety of sources that may not be related at all. One of the first things we typically get asked is, okay, great, we have this common schema, now how do I actually get data into it? Both of these platforms also have raw APIs if you much prefer to write it yourself. But the visual interface that we provide through Power Query Online makes it much more approachable to non-developers as well. So, and that's where, of course, Power Query Online comes in, and the experience that these users have using it in Power BI and Excel is definitely an asset. Makes it much more familiar and approachable for them to interact and combine and transform their data visually. The experiences, as you saw, are in the Power Apps, both what they call the Maker Portal, which is what Robert showed. There's also an admin experience for some heavier duty scenarios as well. And then that same experience is also in Power BI around data flows. And keep an eye out for Power Query Online to come into more places as well throughout our platforms. Once they've connected to the data and transformed it, they can map that output to a CDM schema if it is a concept that we have in CDM. They can also extend it or bring in a brand new entity that might relate back to other CDM entities as well. And the templates, as Robert showed, really make it powerful for, in just a few clicks, for someone to be already supported in certain data source scenarios, but of course they can be customized as well. So this is really a growing ecosystem, and when I say that, I mean both CDM itself, but also the products and platforms that are built on top of it, as well as the applications, both insights, intelligence applications, dashboards, as well as actual transactional apps, such as Dynamics. So we, as we mentioned before, we've open sourced the current set of entities, which is about 250 entities or so, on GitHub across a wide range of different areas. You saw sales, marketing, healthcare as well. But it continues to expand, and we're not doing this in isolation, so we're working very closely with industry experts, subject matter experts, partners inside and outside of Microsoft, Adobe, SAP, to continue to expand this common definition and the metadata system under it so it can really define, any data that our customers need. And we're also specifically targeting certain industries, so including healthcare, which actually was released in July, which we'll talk about in a second, nonprofit, education, financial services, retail, and more. And so the industries specifically, the way that we're targeting those is through an effort that we talk about called the Industry Solution Accelerators. There's actually a roundtable yesterday, I believe, and there's one tomorrow, and I'll put up a set later. But if you're in one of those industries that I mentioned, either as a data provider, a solution provider, a customer, then our effort around the Industry Solution Accelerators are likely pretty interesting to you. So pretty much what the accelerators provide is a set of tools or capabilities that allow any of those people, customers, producers, or suppliers to really get off the ground running quickly on our platform, leveraging the common data model in that space, but also other capabilities such as out-of-box sample data, forms, dashboards, and more. And so you can see it ends up being kind of a layered approach as well. So we provide a common definition that's specific to that industry. We try to tie it to an industry standard wherever possible, and if there's not an official standard, we work to kind of get the agreed upon shape. The accelerator provides a way to install that schema in some cases, and then also some out-of-box capabilities. And then it allows ISVs to really build on top of it. So you can have different components that can even be nested, and leveraging our app source marketplace, distribute it to all of our customers on these platforms to really take advantage of what's been built within the accelerator. And so if you're interested in learning more or participating in it, there's a hyperlink down here, aka.ms/CDM industry, where you can find out more information. And then specifically the healthcare accelerator that I mentioned, that was one that we released the first version of at Inspire, which was in July. And I mentioned the first version because it is something that we're going to actively keep growing and adding to. But this data model was focused on the HL7 FHIR standard, and so then we built the equivalent shapes within the common data model. It's focused on patient care, and so we were also able, as part of the accelerator, to offer some forms around care team and patient timeline. It's available for free today on AppSource. You can also download the source code directly from GitHub, and we've had over 400 downloads so far. As part of this, we also have hackathons and engagement requests. So again, if you're interested specifically in the healthcare one, please come up and chat with us after this. And we have partners, actually, when we released in July, we had multiple partners, I think it was about 6 total, that ultimately built solutions and released them with us when we were able to announce this accelerator. So it really just proved out how powerful this package and how much it can really help partners get off the ground running quickly, as they really did build the solutions quite quickly once we released them. So coming soon, we have a lot more coming, especially around the industry accelerators. We have education, nonprofit, and more, as well as updates, as I mentioned, to the healthcare accelerator. We're going to have a lot more entity definitions from Dynamics products that you're likely familiar with, finance and operations, marketing, talent, and more. And you'll see a lot more entity definitions from other new areas, especially the observational data that we were talking about. You'll also see some previews of the integrations of CDM folders in the Azure Data Services, as we alluded to. So Azure Data Factory, Azure ML, Databricks. And then even more, as Robert mentioned, as CDM continues to evolve with the Open Data Initiative, you're going to see more and more from that here too. So a few session takeaways. Hopefully, if we quizzed each one of you after, you would say something similar, but just to summarize it for you, the CDM offers an expanding set of well-defined entities and concepts with unified semantics. And this metadata and attributes and all the pieces within the schema makes it easier and actually possible to share data and building applications really easily and out of the box. We have multiple services and platforms that leverage the CDM today, including Common Data Service for Apps, Power BI, Azure, and so many more. And it continues to evolve with the Open Data Initiative. And if you want to learn more, aka.ms/common data model, that'll take you right to, I believe, our GitHub repository, where you can see the latest and greatest of all things CDM. There's some links to contact us to participate in some of these efforts, and then also actually a graphical browser if you want to kind of explore a bit of what's in CDM today. So as promised, we have a variety of sessions as part of this effort and our larger data integration team. So data integration covers all things. Of course, we have CDM, but also many of the connectors in Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow, on-premise data gateway, a whole variety of capabilities that we have as part of our data integration group. So some of these have already happened, but if you missed them, definitely take a note of the session number so that you can go get the recording and the deck after the fact. And then again, data integration is the name of our group, which is the booth that you're going to be looking for down in the expo if you want to come chat with us more. So with that, we will switch over into Q&A. I would ask if you do have a question to just come up to the mic. And then if you're interested in any of those handouts or the full-size posters, we'll have a few after Q&A goes through. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is really on the underlying infrastructure to provide these services. So I think your example was more on the analytical side with the Power BI. Mm-hmm. If you were using it for writing business applications and you needed access to the data in the data lake, is that a choice that the customer has on how to define the infrastructure, or is that part and parcel of the CDM offering?
So the question was around, okay, how do I, from business applications, take advantage of some of the data that may just sit in a data lake?
Yeah.
So there's definitely enhancements that we are planning around the common data service itself. Mm-hmm. You can leverage that directly. What you briefly saw, I didn't show the full demo for the data integration experience. You can also bring the data in, which would basically bring a snapshot of data into the common data service, so all your business applications, right, can take advantage of it. But we're also looking at, okay, how can we bring, right, some of that seamless access to the data that just resides in the data lake? So those are things that are not available today, but it's definitely something we're looking at.
Because like Cosmos DB would be an example, I would have thought, where
yes,
you want to leverage that, and then that gives you a low latency, high availability access.
Yep, there's definitely
more of that is being planned.
Yes, definitely things that we are actively thinking about.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Construction, is it a focus of one of the industries?
Construction, interesting.
Construction isn't, so we have basically planned out the next couple of months. Construction is currently not a focus, but I would say definitely encourage you to head to the round table. So there's a session tomorrow. And so I would say there's definitely interesting scenarios. It's more of a, okay, we can only do so many in parallel, and we have kind of, okay, set up an initial set for the next couple of months. But I think it's definitely an interesting area.
Okay. The other question is other integration platforms besides your own Power Query, Online, and Informatica. So I've got a pretty sound investment in Jitterbit.
So the ones that we basically, so we have certainly right around Azure Data Factory, right, all the Power BI data flows, Power Query capabilities. Yes, we've mentioned Informatica. Those are the ones that are public at this point, right, that have in some form already built experiences. There's more partners that we are working with. It's just generally we don't make public announcements until there's actually something to show.
But we are looking to also provide kind of tooling to support any partner that's looking to engage. Yeah.
So similar to the last gentleman, I'm curious about your roadmap as far as other data entities. Obviously, we are a multifunctional business, and so I'm curious about where can we find that roadmap and provide input. You said
there is
industry one specifically is that last, the bottom line there. And so if you're thinking of entities that are kind of are encompassed in a specific industry, that one might be interesting for you. We are also adding things from other efforts across our partners. And so right now, the latest and greatest you'll see in our GitHub repository. We're trying to find a better way to kind of say upcoming. As a group, the business application group releases release notes. So you'll see a public announcement, I think in about a month or so, that's going to be forward-looking all the way till April. So that'll have some more information about what's coming soon. But if you have feedback and you have specific things you're looking for, definitely engage with us and we can give you a more accurate timeline.
Thank you.
Back to the end, yeah.
How does this service integrate with the analysis services?
So analysis services, right, is an in-memory database. The experience of Power BI data flows, for example, right, allows you to land data in a certain structured form in the storage, and then there's a connector in Power BI that basically reads that data and can populate an in-memory database analysis services, right, and refresh that data from there. Okay. So there's an integrated experience. It's already available in Power BI Desktop. You can just connect to the data.
You can connect to the data and then refresh it from the cube.
Yep.
So we'll do one more at the mic, and then you guys can maybe come up and have questions so that we can hand out the, but please, go ahead.
If I've got my data already in Dynamics 365 for sales in the CDS, how do I get it into the data lake? Is that going to be done through an integration project, or is that going to be automatic?
Great question. Ultimately, today, there's already a data export service. There's mechanisms that exist. But what we are definitely want to enable is basically an ultimately continuous update of the data in the data lake. It's not publicly available today, but this is definitely where we're headed.
Would that be under Data Factory then, or would that be a separate service?
So the idea is that you, as the, let's say, administrator of the common data service instance, you don't have to actually worry about the details. It will basically just be provided as a built-in mechanism, and you can just use it.
And there'll likely be multiple ways, as you know, Robert mentioned. There's actually pieces you can do today, but we're looking to kind of offer something much more streamlined. So, and then you won't have to care about how it works. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and please feel free to come up and have more questions. And we have a few handaways as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.